listen for one moment, and what you hear is the language of grief.
Yes, my son might be. He apparently has a gun and he's heading toward the Old National.
They didn't know whether it was truly safe for them to go in or not, and they did it anyway.
This is his mother. I'm so sorry. I'm getting details secondhand. I'm running to it now. Oh, my Lord.
And when you get on scene and you see, the building, you realize, like, we've just joined a club that no one ever wants to join.
I don't know what to feel at any given time.
I'm tired of them having to absorb the impact of these shootings.
Love, compassion, humility, empathy. They've got to be able to lead us to a better place.
The pain of Monday's shooting is still very visible here in Louisville, but tonight the community is coming together to provide some healing.
And this evening, the city provided mental health professionals at more than a dozen places of worship. They also honored the 5 people shot and killed at Old National Bank, as well as the 8 people injured in the attack.
2 people are still in the hospital tonight, and one of them is LMPD officer Nicholas Wilt, one of the first responders to get to the bank.
We're also hearing the 911 calls from terrified people watching this tragedy unfold. One of them, the shooter's mother. We will walk you through those calls in just a moment.
And also Conroy DeLuce will introduce us to the first responders who ran into the bank alongside police. Later, Molly Jett will show us how local young people are reacting to Monday's violence.
But first, Katrina Nickel is live at the bank where there is a memorial for the victims. It is just blocks from where the city held a service to honor them this evening. Katrina?
You guys, the hope is that with each day that passes by, this could become easier. But the reality is it's gotten harder the more we learn about what happened that day and the lives that were lost and that we honor now outside the bank. And tonight the community came together to grieve.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
With arms wrapped around each other, shoulders to lean on, familiar faces to hug.
We're all very heartbroken.
In the heart of downtown,
welcome to the Muhammad Ali Center Plaza.
Louisvillians took time to try and heal their hearts.
This is our home.
Honoring the 5 people who walked into Old National Bank Monday morning and were killed.
So we lost colleagues, friends, mentors.
In the crowds of hundreds were Old National Bank workers like Ellen Nichols.
I feel a lot of things. Most of it's guilt, knowing that I should have been there.
Nichols was home Monday morning with her newborn daughter. She has been on maternity leave.
And I had a friend in law enforcement that called me and said, "Ellen, where are you at?" And I said, "I'm at home." He said, "Oh, thank God, because there's a shooter at your bank. And it's not good."
Nichols should be planning to return to work May 1st. Instead, she's left grieving her co-workers.
But just knowing that I was supposed to be there and I get to see another day and my colleagues don't, it's very guiltful.
She sat with co-workers and strangers as pastors, rabbis, doctors, politicians all tried to offer words of comfort.
I believe in heaven, which means that while the body is mortal, the soul is eternal. And Tommy, I will see you again, and we will see all of these incredible individuals again.
While there are still so many questions about why these 5 people's lives were taken, the focus right now is on remembering them.
That's what we all need, is just prayers, love, support.
Many leaders also took time today to thank all those first responders that rushed into the bank Monday morning. And others also spoke about passing some sort of gun legislation so we never have to go through something like this in Louisville or the country again.
So many emotions coming out of that vigil tonight. Katrina, thank you for your reporting. Well, some family members of Juliana Farmer visited the memorial at Old National Bank today.
Heavenly Father, right now, I just want to lift this family up.
Farmer was one of the 5 victims. A group of volunteers prayed with her family today. They visited and looked at the flowers, balloons, candles, and other items left from the community. Farmer was a loan officer at the bank. She recently moved to Louisville, taking a job at that bank. Her friends say she wanted a new start.
We don't have funeral details yet for Juliana Farmer, but we do have them for the other 4 people who passed away after Monday's shooting. Tommy Elliott's family announced that his visitation and funeral service will be open to the public. Visitation is set from 2 to 7 p.m. tomorrow at Pearson Funeral Home. The funeral is Friday at 3 at Broadway Baptist Church. His burial will be private. Visitations for Josh Barrick and Deanna Eckert are Friday. Eckert's funeral will follow her visitation. A funeral mass for Barrick is Saturday, and Jim Tutt's family will hold his visitation and funeral service on Sunday. For locations and times, you can look on our website, WDRB.com.
As gunshots rang out Monday morning, fire and EMS crews stood alongside officers ready to jump into danger. WDRB's Conroy Deluche walks us through what some experienced. Conroy?
Well, Louisville first responders practice these active aggressor drills every year. But this time, there was no drill because lives were on the line. Before Officer Corey Galloway could get a clear shot at the suspect,
what we do is we provide combat casualty care.
The Rapid Task Force team stood by wearing this combat gear.
It literally looks like somebody's walking into a war zone.
I think I got him down.
With the shooter killed and his AR-15 silenced, fire and EMS teams jumped into action.
They didn't know whether it was truly safe for them to go in or not, and they did it anyway.
Tasked with getting to the victims.
To identify those that were beyond care and to begin initiating any kind of medical care that there might be.
EMS Chief Jesse Yarbrough could only listen as he responded from about 6 miles away, pulling up after the shooting stopped.
And then when you get on scene and you see, the building and the broken glass and the responders carrying people out, you realize, we've just joined a club that no one ever wants to join.
But one the department was prepared for.
We don't have the luxury of just hoping that this doesn't happen in Louisville.
As they work to save as many lives as possible. 9 people were transported to the hospital from the bank, including Officer Nicholas Wilt, by his fellow officers from LMPD. It was a frantic scene, and while they were prepared to respond as a team, it's certainly something that they never wanted to see. Gil, Fallon.
Rushing into the ultimate danger. All right, Conroy Deluche, thank you for your reporting tonight. The panic voices calling 911 during the Old National Bank shooting were released to the public today, and it is not easy to hear.
WDRB News has decided not to air the victims' voices to not further deepen the pain from that dark day. WDRB's Monica Harkins explains what the calls reveal about the moments during and after the shooting.
My son might be because he has a gun and he's heading toward the Old National on Main Street here in Louisville.
At 8:30 a.m. Monday morning, an employee of the Old National Bank brought a rifle and shot his coworkers. Wednesday, LMPD released nearly an hour of audio from the various calls to 911. The shooter's mom was one of the callers.
This is his mother. I'm so sorry. I'm getting details secondhand. I'm running through it now. Oh, my Lord.
His mother says the shooter's roommate found a note, called her, and said he might have a gun.
I don't know what to do. I need your help. I think he's never hurt me once. He's a really good kid. Please don't come up to him.
The dispatcher continues to ask his name, what he looks like, as the mom says she doesn't know how he got a gun.
Please, he's non-violent. He's never done anything. Please.
Okay, and you don't believe he owns guns?
I know he doesn't own any guns.
Near the end of the call, the mom says repeatedly she's going to the bank.
I don't want you to go to the location. We have a situation that's going on down there right now. We've already had calls from other people, and I do not need you to go to the location at this time, okay? It's dangerous there.
She was too late. Her son had already opened fire on a meeting at the bank where he worked. The first 911 call from a woman who saw it on Zoom.
Video board meeting.
The woman crying and breathing heavily, trying to describe it. A second caller from inside the bank saying she was hiding in a closet. You could hear more gunfire during the call. The dispatcher telling her people were on the way, telling her to keep quiet.
Yes, I'm still here. Just stay quiet, okay?
There was even callers who say they had trouble getting through to 911. There was one woman who saw the shooter walking on Main Street with a rifle, seemingly before the shooting. He wasn't shooting and she couldn't tell where he was going, but she knew it didn't seem right. The caller hoping it was nothing.
That was Monica Harkins reporting there. The audio can be hard to listen to, and we are only using pieces of it sparingly. For the full audio, you can listen to it at your own discretion on our website, WDRB.com.
Despite the dangers and bullets flying, dozens of Metro police officers still raced to the scene of Monday's mass shooting.
I wish that the circumstance wasn't what it was, but those officers performed at a very, very high level under the worst conditions imaginable at this time.
Deputy Police Chief Paul Humphrey says Monday's mass shooting could have been a lot worse. Police say after shooting and killing 5 people that the shooter ambushed the first officers on the scene. Despite the gunfire, we now know that rookie officer Nicholas Wilt, just days on the job, and his field training officer Corey Galloway pressed forward, a move that could have saved lives.
This absolutely could have been a lot worse. Their actions to advance on that was absolutely crucial. The amount of time that subject spent focused on them, he was not focused on other people.
Deputy Chief Humphrey also praised the 911 call takers and dispatchers.
Well, just 2 people remain in the hospital after Monday's mass shooting at Old National Bank. That includes Officer Wilt, the only person still in critical condition. He had brain surgery on Monday. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jason Smith says he's proud of how his team responded to patients coming in. He says it's a miracle only 1 life has been lost since people started arriving at that hospital.
And we have much more to get to tonight. We'll hear from former Mayor Jerry Abramson, who led the city during the 1989 Standard Gravier shooting, what's thought to be the nation's first workplace shooting. And later, U of L and Bellarmine came together tonight on the baseball diamond in a show of unity. We'll take you out to Jim Patterson Stadium in sports.
Officer Wilt is a hero in every sense of the word. And I'm humbled to be among those here today to celebrate this huge step forward on his path to recovery.
His little catchphrase when we wheel him out of his room, he goes, "Let's boogie woogie," like he's ready to go.
After one of the darkest days in Louisville's history, the city celebrated answered prayer tonight as LMPD officer Nicholas Wilt made enough progress to go home from the hospital.
Truly remarkable. His release from Frazier Rehab comes nearly 4 months, more than 100 days since he was shot in the head running to help those inside Old National Bank with an active shooter. Today, the CEO of the bank was there to personally show his appreciation.
To the family and friends of Officer Wilt, please know that our O&B family will never forget the sacrifices made on our behalf. I will never forget. Our Louisville team will never forget.
Wilt was just on his 4th shift after graduating the police academy. The 26-year-old and his partner, Officer Corey Galloway, are credited for saving lives as they responded to Old National Bank despite taking AR-15 gunfire from the shooter. Today, Wilt's family thanked the doctors and medical team who have helped him overcome several setbacks while battling a traumatic brain injury.
He knows he's got a long road ahead of him. With the help of Dr. Kalin and everybody here, he is going to get back to it. And he knows he is, and he's putting in the work in every day to get to it.
Officer Wilt has physical, occupational, and speech therapy still ahead. Doctors say he will spend 5 days a week doing outpatient therapy at the Frazier Rehab Institute. So the last 108 days have been a roller coaster as Officer Wilt began his journey of recovery. The shooting, of course, was on April 10th. A little more than a week later, Wilt was diagnosed with pneumonia. It's a common diagnosis for patients on ventilators, but he was moved to Jewish Hospital. A week later, Officer Wilt opened his eyes for the very first time. The first 2 weeks of May, pretty busy. On the 2nd, he was returned to U of L Hospital. On May 8th, he was taken off his ventilator. May 10th, moved to Frazier Rehab. May 25th, LMPD revealed for the first time that Officer Wilt started walking again with a harness. And then in June, he showed remarkable improvement, although his family said he had a significant scare on the 27th. A month and a day later, today, his brother rolled him out of the hospital so he could return home for the first time.
And on his way home from the hospital, Officer Wilt saw firsthand how much he is appreciated. WDRB's Stefan Johnson takes us to the church where the community showed their support.
But from the hospital to his home, that show of support was very visible for Officer Wilt. And today, after 3 months in the hospital, this is one of the images that the public saw. Officer Nick Wilt flashes a thumbs up sign as he leaves the Frazier Rehab Institute and heads for home.
It's exciting to see him, to see where he is, and smiling and waving.
Along the way, his procession is greeted by hundreds of community members.
I hope he gets inspired by it so he can continue on with his recovery.
Most of them line the sidewalks outside Southeast Christian Church. What made you come out here today?
Same reason as everybody else, to show my support and excitement that he's finally going home.
And as Officer Wilt's procession enters the parking lot, living proof that not all heroes wear capes.
10 days on the job, too.
In some cases, they wear the scars of a mass shooting that devastated the city and state.
And it had to be a fearful moment of what he dealt with right there in that day, and hopefully now he can have some faith from the community.
As his procession rolls through the parking lot of the church and under a giant American flag, Officer Wilt waves to the cheering crowd.
I hope it gives him hope and builds up his faith, just like my shirt.
It is a journey that includes more than just hope and faith.
We are so proud and so happy for him and his family.
There's also lots of emotion.
Because he has a long road, and he's had a long road in faith and support from the community and his beautiful family.
In addition to hundreds of community members.
And it takes all of us to make sure that we understand that we want healing. We're excited for Officer Wilt and his family.
City officials, fellow first responders, and the members of LMPD's command staff were also there to show their support.
I'm sure his family's excited, but his other family is also excited as well.
And even though he's been released from the hospital, Officer Wilt's treatment will continue through outpatient care. With photojournalist Jeff Gordon, I'm Stefan Johnson, WDRB News.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear also acknowledged the milestone day for Officer Wilt today. He tweeted saying Kentucky's prayers were heard as Wilt returns home to be with his family, adding Officer Wilt is a hero who ran toward danger to save the lives of several of my friends. I am forever grateful for him and his bravery.
What a moment. It's a homecoming that no one will ever forget. But Officer Wilt, as you can imagine, does have much more ahead in his recovery. WDRB's Conroy Deluge takes a look at Wilt Week, a fundraising extravaganza to help his family.
So many people across the city of Louisville have been following Officer Wilt's recovery, so this was an emotional day for them.
Few people have made as big of an impact during their fourth shift at a job like Officer Nicholas Wilt.
To know that this young man ran in there with no second thought, hesitation, and didn't even think twice about it, gives me chills.
His bravery inspired a fundraiser at the Golden Nugget in Hikes Point last month.
It was good because he ran into danger and no hesitation, you know.
One of many drives to help the Wilt family.
And what started as a little idea to collect money in a jar has turned into one whole week full of activity with over $100,000 collected so far.
And coming to St. Matthews on Tuesday, Wilt Week, a series of events dedicated to raising money for the officer and his family. There will be a family fun night and softball game between St. Matthews Police and Fire. There will be bike and car show benefits and a silent auction consisting of donations.
Thank you so much.
Like this basket from Bourbon Barrel Foods.
All types of bourbon. We must have about 10 or 12 different bourbon sets.
The planning started in early June.
He's a police officer. We're family.
And now, just ahead, their hero is home.
It just shows his resilience, and he's strong. He's a fighter.
But Ashley Bratcher with the St. Matthews Police Department says it's important to remember Wilt and his family still need help.
He's going to be in this for a while, and it just needs to be reminded that, it's not over yet.
And many are ready.
He's got the whole city behind him. He really does.
To pitch in and do their part. With photojournalist Greg Shapker, Conroy DeLuche, WDRB News.
So many wanting to help. So Wilt Week kicks off on Tuesday, and if you eat at Texas Roadhouse in Louisville that day, they are donating 100% of the profits to the LMPD Foundation in honor of Wilt.
And this is a day that Wilt's loved ones have looked forward to for months, but we also want to pause and stop and remember the lives that were lost on that tragic day back in April. 5 Old National Bank executives were killed April 10th. Josh Barrick, Jim Tutt, Tommy Elliott, Juliana Farmer, and Dina Eckert, all shot to death. The city paid tribute to the victims with a public memorial service. Community fundraisers have provided financial support to their families.
WDRB, of course, has been following Officer Wilt's status since the day of the shooting back in April. We will continue to keep tabs on his journey of recovery. For all of our reporting from the shooting itself to Officer Wilt's ride home, we've got it for you on our website. Just head to WDRB.com.
One of Bardstown's biggest mysteries.
My job is to find Crystal, right? That's right. However that happens.
Reaches a turning point.
Everybody had questions in this case. Where's the body? Who did this?
One question asked for 8 years.
Where's Crystal Rogers?
May soon have answers.
I think Brooks Houck killed my daughter.
The main suspect after the mother of 5 disappeared.
I have been advised, to ride the wave.
Now in jail.
If he's so innocent, why is he riding the wave?
Crystal Rogers' car was found abandoned on the Bluegrass Parkway with her keys and purse still inside. For 8 years, the main suspect in her disappearance and murder walked free.
Well, tonight he's in jail on a $10 million bond. As our viewers know, this is a huge story, and our team is all over it.
We begin our coverage tonight with WDRB's Fallon Glick live in Bardstown on the arrest of Rogers' former boyfriend, Brooks Houck. Fallon?
Well, Gail, Lindsay, this has been a long time coming for the family of Crystal Rogers and even the entire Bardstown community. All eyes have been on this case for more than 8 years now. Brooks Houck, he was named the main suspect in Crystal Rogers' disappearance shortly after she went missing, and he has been the only suspect this whole time. But finally, that suspect, he has been arrested in Nelson County. We want to show you some video. WDRB was the only station there when Brooks Houck was arrested and taken into the Nelson County Jail, both his wrists in handcuffs as he walked into that jail. Now, he wasn't in the jail for a long amount of time. Shortly after that, he was taken to the Hardin County Jail where he was booked there. And the jailer tells us it's a courtesy hold, but ultimately throughout these years, multiple police agencies have been involved in this investigation. Ultimately, it was the FBI that landed Brooks Houck behind bars. So we want to talk about the FBI a little bit, and we're going to bring in WDRB's Conroy DeLuche. You spoke to a retired FBI agent. The FBI took over Crystal's case about 3 years ago. So tell us, why now? Why an arrest 3 years later since they took over Crystal's case?
And they took over the case 5 years after Crystal Rogers was last seen alive, 5 years after that investigation began, which means that it was a lot harder to find and process any evidence that they were able to find and recover. And when I talked to the retired FBI agent, he says they must have found something.
More than 2 years ago, the FBI went digging.
And you have to go through every square inch of that with fine-tooth comb, literally.
Sonar equipment, backhoes, and canines focused on this property in the Woodlawn Springs neighborhood.
It appeared that they found items of significance that were sent off to the lab in Quantico.
Doug Coons retired from the FBI in 2018 and now is the CEO of an investigative firm. In cases like this involving cold evidence, he says results take a long time to process.
It's possible that something from that search led to this next step.
At this point, we still don't know what the FBI uncovered from those searches. But earlier this month, Joseph Lawson was arrested. Coon speculates that previously missing piece, plus additional interviews and advances in technology, led to the charges against Brooks Houck.
So the investigators have to come up with enough pieces of that puzzle. It doesn't have to be the full puzzle, but it has to have enough to it that a judge is going to say, yeah, I think you've got enough here, I'm going to sign off on it, and then the arrest is made.
As the case heads to the courtroom, we'll learn more details of what the FBI recovered.
It'll be interesting over the next few months to see how this plays out and how strong the case is.
But Coons cautions, just because there is an arrest, this case is far from over. This investigation did involve federal agents, but it does remain a state case at this point. Coons says the FBI jumps in if asked by the state or the agency that's leading the investigation. They do have a lot more resources. They have the lab in Quantico. They can process things. And they say they do this in a lot of high-profile cases. And as we've seen for more than 8 years, the billboards, the interviews with Sherry Ballard and others, Crystal Rogers, certainly a high-profile case.
Right. And Crystal's family, they have worked tirelessly to keep her case in the spotlight. And it appears to have paid off, because pretty soon we're going to see Brooks Houck here behind us at the Nelson County Courthouse answering to those tampering with murder charges and complicity to murder charges, tampering with evidence, I should say. But this has been the talk of the town here in Bardstown. WDRB's Joel Skipper talked to some of the community members about what they think about this Brooks Houck arrest.
Bardstown is a close-knit community. Everyone knows everyone, so word spreads quickly, especially with a case like this.
Good afternoon, Salt and Serendipity. This is Stephanie.
For Stephanie Allen, her Wednesday started off reaching for her phone.
I was getting ready to come into work, and I get 40 texts at one time telling me about it.
It didn't take long for word to spread throughout Bardstown that Brooks Houck had been arrested in connection with the death of Crystal Rogers.
And when we did move to Bardstown, it was like that's all you heard, that's all people talked about. You saw the signs and you heard the stories.
Those signs are still in front yards and in the windows of businesses throughout the city and Nelson County. Signs they hope will eventually be replaced with answers.
Everybody had questions in this case. What happened? Where's the body? Who did this? How can we prevent this from happening again? And I think this, hopefully for Sherry and her family, answers some of those questions.
The social media group Team Crystal, which often provides updates on the case, posted Wednesday thanking the FBI, the Kentucky State Police, and the Nelson County Sheriff's Office for their work in the case. Many we spoke with say they had a feeling Houck would be arrested eventually, since he was the main suspect in the investigation.
It's happy to know that they are finally on a track where they can resolve it.
Nobody expects that to happen in a small town, so it's kind of a big community thing when it happens like that.
A small town that has supported Rogers' family for years and will continue to do so.
I think this is the first step, but I don't think it'll be 100% closure until they find her. Hopefully that'll come sooner than later.
Those with signs in their windows and in their front lawns say those will stay up until this case is closed. Reporting in Bardstown with photojournalist Neil Johnson, Joel Skipper, WDRB News.
And Crystal Rogers is just one of the many unsolved murders here in Bardstown. So that leaves many people wondering, is this just the tip of the iceberg? And will more arrests be forthcoming? Guys, only time will tell.
So many twists and turns with this case, Fallon, and now we look to the courtroom and see what happens there. Fallon, thanks for all of your hard work out there today.
Well, a break in the Rogers case may provide hope for closure in Bardstown's other murder mysteries. Between 2013 and 2016, 4 cases puzzled the community with no arrests and no answers. Bardstown police officer Jason Ellis. He was ambushed in 2013, clearing debris from the road on his way home. A year later, Bardstown elementary teacher Kathy Netherland and her daughter were found dead at home. And then the Rogers case. And Crystal Rogers' dad, who you just saw there, Tommy Ballard, he was killed by a stray bullet while hunting. Police say it was no accident, but never found the shooter. In fact, no one has been arrested in any of those other cases.
And our viewers know this is a huge story, so we'll have much more coverage coming up throughout the show tonight. At 10:30, we'll show you the FBI's first interview with Houck and what he told investigators back in 2015.
And later we will walk you through the key moments in this 8-year investigation, from the day Crystal Rogers went missing to searches and raids and the moment the police took Brooks Houck into custody today.